Welcome to Corrective Consciousness episode 235.
What a save.
Where we explore the inanity of pop culture. It was all a plan. All part of the plan. I am your host, vysethebold.
Yeah.
And this is...
Lotus Prince.
Lucky me, I remembered at the very last.
Yeah, what a save again.
I didn't even have to remember the true date. And we are here for another continuation of the retrospective of James Bond that we have been doing. And we've been doing like the whole media franchise, not just the movies, which would be like the popular thing. We've been doing, a little bit about the books, the fantastic cartoon, James Bond Jr., and which retcons the death of several characters.
It's absurd.
And you know what that reminds me of? It reminds me of like all the you hardly ever see these days because like a lot of the marketable like properties are like PG-13 kind of. But like anything that you would want to sell an action figure of is something you can watch.
Not in the 90s it wasn't.
What?
Not in the 90s it wasn't.
Well, I was about to say, like, remember when they like marketed a ton of RoboCop
yeah, RoboCop, Terminator, Alien,
Rambo
Starship
had its
Troopers.
Own, Rambo, like one of the most violent movies ever at that time. Well, so was RoboCop for that matter, but
especially RoboCop.
But Rambo 2 was really fucking violent. And that had its own cartoon show.
So did RoboCop, I think.
Yeah, RoboCop had its own cartoon. It had two cartoon shows. Like all those action figures that they did for the Alien franchise and Predator franchise. Jeez, like that stuff was intense. But yeah, and they're marketing James Bond. I guess James Bond does fit a little bit better, but like I'm thinking more like Toxic Avenger was turned into Toxic Crusaders. Like,
yeah, my god,
that is the least kid-friendly franchise I could think
It's a
of.
fucking trauma movie.
Yeah, it's borderline porn. Like trauma movies like have tons of nudity in them. Like all kinds of. Like the first movie even had like cuts that needed to be made because it has like a skull smashing scene. Like,
yep.
That looks really terrible, by the way. It looks like what it is, a pumpkin being run over by a car. But they had to cut that out in the original version, in some instances. But they made a cartoon show based off of that property, and then they made a Genesis game off of that. Craziness. Beetlejuice, like, that wasn't really a kid's movie, and you made it into a cartoon.
Yeah, especially the very beginning where they like put on their scary faces, which are actually quite fucked up.
I mean, I can see little kids having nightmares because of Beetlejuice. Like, there's some stuff in there that like.
Yeah, but the 80s was also the era of like even things specifically directed for kids had at least one like super scary thing in it, like
Large
weirdly.
Marge.
Yeah, Large Marge, the owl from The Secret of Nim.
The Adventures of Mark Twain with that Satan thing.
Yeah, what? What? Not that this was really not. This one wasn't necessarily for kids, but like 100% of Watership Down.
Yeah, well, the book is at least a little bit better about because you're just using your imagination, but the cartoon just shows it straight up, shows what happens, and Watership Down is brutal, even to the characters that get away alive. They go through all kinds of really terrible tribulations. Even the cover of it is one of the main characters being stuck in a snare and basically almost cracking his neck. That's actually one of my favorite books of all time, by the way. It is so good. But we have James Bond to talk about. Now, we left off at basically the EA era of Bond stuff.
Yeah, for video games, that's about where I fall off. Like, I kept watching the movies after the Brosnan era, but I don't know what's going on with the video games after that point.
So the second Brosnan movie is The World Is Not Enough. Now,
No. That The World Is Not Enough is the third one. The second one is Tomorrow Never Dies.
Tomorrow Never Dies. That's right. And a lot of people tend to, upon like looking back at it, a lot of people like this. Probably better than it was originally even received. Like a lot of people actually like this one. I know you like it, don't you?
Which one?
The second.
The second one?
Pierce Brosnan one, yeah.
Tomorrow Never Dies?
Tomorrow Never Dies, yeah.
Yeah, I quite like that one. I mean, it's no GoldenEye, but I thoroughly enjoyed that movie.
Yeah, this is the one with the media mogul. It's basically like a Rupert Murdoch's kind of stand-in.
Yeah, Elliot Carver.
Yeah.
Who then showed up as fragile old man in the Pirates of the Caribbean movies.
But they kind of EA had the impossible task of adapting that into a video game that could compete with an all-time classic.
I will say, by the way, as far as big villain plans were concerned, I don't know how executable these things would be without instantly getting caught. It's no Goldfinger plan, but I could see a weird enough villain wanting to actually do it. Yeah, like Goldfinger's plan is desirable and possible. This guy's plan is at least desirable. Maybe he could try it once, but the moment he tries it a second time, he's getting his ass caught.
This is until the recent modern Bond era where like. The plots in these in Daniel Craig ones are actually pretty credible. I mean, like Casino Royale, like absolutely is credible.
Yeah, well, that's the old book. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a guy, gambling to try to get his money back. So like.
Yeah, there's no big villain plot. Like the villain himself is in trouble.
Yeah, and that is very credible when you're involved in organized crime.
Yeah, like watch out for the other organized crime.
And even like the stuff that happens in Skyfall is like.
Well, yeah, Skyfall. I mean, look at every Bond movie. Look at the shit they send James Bond in to do. Like, it's incredible that he gets away every time. Well, one guy didn't.
Yeah, and
he's fucking pissed.
What?
That's also the plot of GoldenEye, actually.
Yeah, and what I thought would have been awesome is...
Yeah, you mentioned this. This is great.
And what if instead of... not that he didn't do a fantastic job.
Yeah, Javier Bardem was a fucking brilliant villain.
Javier Bardem did a fantastic fucking job, and he almost had almost like a Heath Ledger-esque performance, as a Joker, but it was so good on its own that I can't even properly say that, but he was a great villain in Skyfall, and I just kind of wish that they had gotten Pierce Brosnan to play that character just to fuck with everybody and not explain it. Just don't explain it. Like, that's it. Like, he's this character, but like don't.
Yeah. Hey, Daniel Craig, did you know that M sucks? Like, what?
Just like don't acknowledge if he is. An old James Bond that they left behind, or like whatever.
Well, yeah, you could do it like John Wick 2 did it, when Lawrence Fishburne is talking about, like, I don't know what his character's name is, or if they even ever name him, but when he's talking about John Wick, he's like, yeah, we met like many years ago, and I'm like, what?
Like a meta reference, and he also says, I need guns, lots of guns.
That was a heavy-handed one, but like the idea that Lawrence Fishburne and Keanu Reeves, we worked together a while, or we encountered each other a long time ago. I'm like, whoa,
so good. It's like, what are you talking about? Like, what's funny is I think on the original schedule, like Matrix 4 and John Wick 4 were supposed to release on the same day, which is
sometime in May, which did not happen.
That is not happening, but still,
I want to see John Wick 4 so bad. Oh my god.
I could see the Wachowski sisters playing into that. Like,
do
somehow.
it.
Just for a little bit of fun.
Do it.
They're big comic book nerds from way back. So.
I mean, they made the fucking Speed Racer movie, and the Matrix itself is the Ghost in the Shell movie before
like
they made a Ghost in the Shell movie.
OG anime fans, when you think about it.
Yeah, same goes with James Cameron. He was trying to make Battle Angel Alita for like a decade, and just could never do it.
Yeah, exactly. But getting back to James Bond, I mean, Tomorrow Never Dies was actually a pretty decent movie, and it involved a woman having Stockholm syndrome, something like that, some kind of subplot with that.
I remember that the assistant guy, Mr. Stamper, he's like the Jaws of that movie. He's just weirdly strong and can tank all sorts of hits.
Yeah, and the honestly, the N64 game is just not worth playing because, like, it is so trying to be GoldenEye, but can't do it.
well, not only that, but, like, it suffers from Silent Hill 2 syndrome in that, like, every game and his mother, like every Silent Hill game after Silent Hill 2, tried to have the amnesia plot, and then you reveal the big thing that you were a part of, and, like, unreliable narrator, but, like, Silent Hill 2 and, you know, the original GoldenEye, they weren't so successful because the idea was just that brilliant. It's that they did it first.
Yeah.
So, like, you can't do it first a second time. You know, they'll be like, oh, it's like GoldenEye. There's no avoiding it. Perfect Dark is a better game. But I was just like, yeah, it's like GoldenEye.
Well, GoldenEye also, I think that was, like, the first one to have, like, really have heavy interaction from one of the other 00 agents, right? I can't think of any other...
actual interaction, yes. Like, one of the movies addressed, like, 004 was killed, like, his was the opening action scene.
They're out in the field doing their thing, but they never actually, like, are part of the major plot.
Yeah, in the opening of GoldenEye, 007 is working with 006 for their mission. Like, that's already interaction. And then 006 is the villain of the whole movie.
Yeah, it's amazing. But, yeah, the world's not enough. You know, the video game, it tries. It's one of those games, if you go back to, you can see, they've definitely put the money behind it, and they really tried. But they didn't have that sense of fun that the crew from Rare instilled in the original version. And also remember, it wasn't meant to. It was never made as, like, a super balanced experience. They kind of threw together the multiplayer as a whim, and so they threw in the kitchen sink in order to, like,
and that's part of what makes it fun. Like, this isn't a hardcore tourney game, because then it would suck, but, like, just stupid shit you can do. Everything explodes. Like, well, alright, it's cartoon fun, fine. Like, that's what makes it enjoyable.
I mean, that would be, like, another reason why you would never see anybody hold, like, a GoldenEye tournament, because, like, you can camp in certain areas.
What are you doing? Yeah.
It is not that type of game. It is not balanced by any... Like, you can easily have a Quake 3, tournament, but, like, you can't do that. It's just not a thing.
Yeah, you would have to do it for the lowest of stakes, because the multiplayer is just, like you said, not balanced at all.
Yeah, and I think, I was gonna say, the game that they ended up going on to after Perfect Dark, do you know what they made after that? Like, that the people that were heavily involved in GoldenEye and Perfect Dark, do you know what they made after that?
I don't know what they made, but if you tell me, then I might be like, oh yeah, that one.
So they formed Free Radical and began the Time Splitters series. And if you...
Oh, that makes sense. Time Splitters was actually run at GDQ, and it's got the same HUD, like, with the health bar. By the way, speaking of, you know, I almost forgot to mention, because I'm mentioning GDQ now. Oh, we talked about GDQ and Reactive. We forgot to open this corrective by saying that I had mentioned that MagFest was doing its virtual event, but... shortly after we recorded, actually it's not, and they're like, yeah, like, stuff is happening, we're gonna try to reach out to our community, and, like, the entire comment section is like, well, yeah, everybody jumped ship because you were terrible. That's why there's no event, because there can't be an event.
Literally all the performers backed up the people who got fired.
Like, there's no MagFest, not because we better cancel, but it's because, like, there's nothing to have a MagFest of.
Yeah, so,
sorry we're introducing this 14 minutes into the recording, but...
Who knew ruining, like, your will towards your fan community that is literally your bread and butter, it would destroy your convention and your business. Who knew? Yep.
For the fans, by the fans, and if you piss off the fans, then what do you have left?
Yeah, exactly. This is a fan event. But anyway.
Time Splitters, same UI, very similar controls. It looks like GoldenEye because it is, and it's kick-ass, and it's an original plot, like Perfect Dark. It's not based on the GoldenEye movie. It's totally its own thing. People love Time Splitters.
Time Splitters 2 and 3 especially, because that's really when they kicked off. The first one was, a little on the primitive side. It was a very early PS2 game. When they made 2 and 3, they have all kinds of crazy bullshit, just like they have in GoldenEye, like all the different options. I believe you can make your own levels in these games in an era when that was not a thing on a console.
And I remember, as far as the campaign was concerned, I forgot if this was Time Splitters 2 or 3, but I remember being wowed because it said right on the back of the box, you could team up with your own past or future self. Like, that's pretty rad.
It's really neat. That really started with the second one, the second game.
Maybe that's what it was then?
Yeah. The first game is, like I said, it's pretty much a very rote first-person shooter unless you're playing the multiplayer.
Sure.
But then you could definitely tell like the GoldenEye crew because made it because it just has all kinds of crazy options in it. And but Time Splitters 2 is really where it's at, and then they really pick up on in 3. So I definitely recommend those. Especially if you have an OG Xbox, those games will run like butter on those systems. Yeah. So
and one thing I will mention, by the way, going back to GDQ one more time, watch the Time Splitters run. I think it was Future Perfect. That Time Splitters. Watch that run. The first level doesn't go so well, and he has to restart. But after that run is amazing, and he does a certain little thing when he has downtime during one of the levels that the Twitch chat was just flipping out during, because I don't think this has been done in a GDQ before, so it was quite entertaining to watch.
Do you know what Free Radical turned into after they went out of business? Like those people went on to do?
No.
They got taken over by Crytek.
Oh.
The makers of Far Cry and Crysis.
Well.
Yeah, so they have a long history of making crazy banana stuff. So anyway, getting back to Bond, which we keep having a trouble doing. That's because kind of this era was kind of a little you also had the World Is Not Enough on Game Boy Color. Nobody's going to be talking about that. The 007 racing game was not very good. The World Is Not Enough was not very good either. Tomorrow Never Dies.
Yeah, that movie, I don't even remember what the ultimate villain plot was.
Is that the one with Christmas Jones? Is that one? With Christina Hendricks?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, so that one is about a nuclear bomb threat in that one, and Christmas Jones needs he and Christmas Jones who believes her as a nuclear scientist? Nobody. He and her need to stop two halves of a nuclear bomb or payload from joining.
Yeah, jeez.
Yeah, so it had some of the best double entendre probably in the entire series.
Yeah, the best.
Yes, I'd like to check out some of your figures. Or
yeah, it's you're leaning too hard into it. It's like I think one of the Roger Moore movies did that, where someone fell in a bathtub that had electrical wire in it and died, and he goes shocking. Yes, okay. Yeah.
But the
it's like an
the
Arnold
one that's
Schwarzenegger
most
line.
of her is so I guess Christmas comes twice this year at the end.
That's so stupid.
It's gross.
By the way, a little thing about World Is Not Enough. You know how the opening credits for the Bond movies are always heavily stylized?
Sure.
Like Casino Royale had all the poker stuff in the background, and they always have the silhouettes of Bond and various women, and it's super cool to watch in every Bond opening credits.
Sure.
Do you remember what the opening credits background stuff was for The World Is Not Enough?
Was it explosions?
You could say it involved an explosion.
Oh, was it nuke stuff going on, or?
Not exactly. I remember I watched this in theaters, so I remember what this was, but on the DVD, I was watching it at a friend's house. It was not the same thing. If you watch the DVD, because there was a big thing with oil in that movie, I think but like the background credits look like, you know how when you shine light on oil, even if you've ever like, you know, changed the oil in the car and it's dripping on the driveway or whatever, you know how it has that sort of like rainbow look to it when it light hit. So the opening credits is basically entirely like rippling oil with that cool rainbow effect. It's a good look, but like for the whole credit sequence, that's because that was changed. That was the second version of the credit sequence. Because, give me a second, you're going to hear me typing stuff because I wasn't thinking. But there it is. The World Is Not Enough came out in 1999. But this was a little too close. Like, I think that they changed things in post after a certain point because the original credits was about a bomb being delivered and detonated. The credit sequence was actually brilliant. It was about... It's like a close-up of this woman's face singing the lyrics, but when you zoom out, you see that she's just a head, and she's like a robot that's being manufactured like in the factory, like getting her like body and arms and legs put on. It's a very cool sequence. And the whole song, she's just kind of going through it while being built, and then finally she's finished and like walks somewhere and like detonates. So she's like a suicide bomber, except she's a robot. It looked kick-ass, but after a point they're like, it's in better taste not to have this in our opening blockbuster credits. It's like how they had a different plan for Metal Gear Solid 2, and then 9/11 happened, and they're like, maybe we won't have Big Shell crash into the East Coast. Let's just inexplicably have them on the ruins of DC. How did they get there? Shh, it's fine.
Yeah, I think the same thing kind of happened with Grand Theft Auto 3 had a similar thing going on too.
And the original trailer for Spider-Man. Do you remember the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trailer?
Oh yeah.
Where a giant spiderweb catches a helicopter between the Twin Towers. That was fucking awesome, but then there were no more Twin Towers, so they're like, let's not do that trailer anymore. But you can look up that trailer on YouTube. It's fucking great. You don't even realize it's for Spider-Man at first until a spiderweb shows up, and they're like, what? It's awesome.
It is neat, but
it's just like a straight up like heist, and you're like, oh, it's a heist movie, and then they're caught in a giant spiderweb, and you're like, oh my god, it's amazing. It's like the Transformers trailer. There's just like some robot on the moon or whatever, and you're like, what is this? And then it says Transformers. You're like, oh! The same idea.
So I have to kind of eat my words here. So The World Is Not Enough was the N64 game that I was thinking of.
Not Tomorrow Never
Dies. The Tomorrow Never Dies game was a PlayStation 1 exclusive, which is not really...
Oh, I didn't even know that, because I actually was thinking. I remember World Is Not Enough being on N64. I didn't know that a Tomorrow Never Dies game existed. Because I grew up with the N64, so I'm surprised that it actually did exist, just for the other system.
Yeah, so Tomorrow Never Dies was a PlayStation 1 only game, and nobody really remembers it. But The World Is Not Enough was the game that I was trying to talk about that was trying to be GoldenEye but couldn't be. It came in a blue cartridge, so you could immediately identify it.
I confused it all the time with Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1.
Yeah. That was
by the way, going back to Double Entendre, by the way, the Tomorrow Never Dies had a pretty good one from the villain. And for once, it's not so nice of you to drop in, because that's a little overdone. But it actually did involve dropping, though, when they seemingly killed James Bond, when they tied him to a weight and dropped him into the ocean, and he had to like struggle his way out. But like the Bond girl's like, whatever happened to James Bond? And he's like, oh, I'm afraid he's at the bottom of the sea by now. He's my new anchor man. I was like, nice. I'll take it.
I will. All out. So yeah. You also had the next one was Agent Under Fire, and this was actually a pretty big deal.
I
this
like
is
that
the next
one.
video game.
It was also cool because it was original. It wasn't another movie license game.
Yeah, in fact, so much so that the game does have MGM branding, but it does not have a likeness. The front cover is in silhouette. So he's a generic Bond.
I didn't remember that. That's clever.
So with brown hair and those chiseled looks, but like just kind of a generic James Bond.
Sure, it's like when video games have like the president.
Yeah,
it's just some like, well, I am the president of the United States. I'm Mr. Stuffy Guy in a suit. Like,
yeah.
All right, fine.
It's basically like Archer. It's a guy. It's a guy you imagine James Bond to be if you aren't thinking of a specific.
Yeah, you're like, oh, is that some sort of Bond
actor.
Cartoon, maybe? Yeah. And then you hear one line from any of the characters, and you're like, oh no.
Now, this game was actually a really big hit. This was released on all 3 systems, and at the time, PlayStation 2, GameCube, and Xbox. And
I had it on GameCube back in the day.
Yeah, a lot of people really like this one, even in retrospect. There are people that are pretty big fans of this one. And
one thing I remember being really interesting about it is that just like there's one mission where like a ninja attacks, which is not the first time that's ever happened in Bond, by the way. But there's like a ninja attacking, and the mission is like, fight the ninja. But I remember being intrigued by it because it wasn't a guy wearing a ninja costume from a 1970s movie and saying, oh yeah, like it's not a stereotypical ninja. It was like a modern ninja. Like Mortal Kombat had been doing this for years, but I didn't really think of the robots as being
or something.
Yeah, I didn't really think of them as ninjas. Yeah, the ninja was in like a high-tech suit with like IR goggles, and I was like, that makes sense. Ninja did what they did back in the day because they lived like hundreds of years ago, but today they'd be using computers and shit. Why wouldn't they?
Yeah, I mean they're not using old technology because they want to.
Yeah, because it's cool.
That's what they had. These were literally like and ninjutsu. I'm not even convinced was actually a thing. This is like,
they probably threw a smoke bomb and they were like, "Is that weird ninja magic powers? How did they conjure smoke?"
I'm sure they didn't even do that. These were probably the vast majority of ninja like missions or whatever were people that just sneaked around at night in dark clothing like you would if you were a criminal.
And gathered like papers or something.
Well, mostly just sabotage, so like killed somebody in the middle of the night or,
Even the killing, like that had to have happened, but I would imagine a lot of what they had to do was like infiltrate and like steal stuff.
Yeah, steal stuff, kidnap people.
I actually very much liked the depiction of the assassination attempt in the Bond movie, where they did something that I think an actual ninja would have done, which was get on the roof of where Bond was sleeping, position themselves directly over Bond, and lower a rope right above his open mouth and drip poison down the rope very slowly. Like that, that's the silent killer right there. That's a good move.
Yeah.
Bond got out of that one by, something interfered, but like this was not like American movie like karate ninjas. Yeah. This was like realistic ninjas.
So, this one is one that you might want to seek out because it's not on modern platforms. It wasn't a PC version of it. So, like if you have like an OG Xbox or a GameCube still, or I wouldn't recommend the PS2 version of almost anything that like came out on all 3 systems. The GameCube and Xbox versions tended
the Xbox was the real powerhouse, but the GameCube still I think generally performs better than the PS2.
Only a little bit behind the Xbox, honestly. The graphics on the and the frame rates on GameCube games were really top notch back in the day.
Yeah, play PS2 Resident Evil 4 for content, GameCube for performance.
Yeah, I mean, but don't play any of them these days.
Well, yeah, at this point it's redundant, but version, at the time.
But yeah, what I was gonna say is, these are good games to look back to in this era. They're still very playable, and they're still fondly looked at by fans of this. I think Metal Jesus rocks.
Oh yeah, Mr. Hidden Gems.
Yeah, really. Looked back at these and was like, these are actually really fun.
They're not bad.
Yeah. And then the next one was
Nightfire, right?
Yeah, this one was actually really good too. It was released on PS2, Xbox, Windows, and Game Boy
I think
Advance.
It was GameCube as well.
GameCube, yeah, as well. So this one was interesting because this did have a likeness in it of Pierce Brosnan, who was the James Bond at the time.
Yeah, the modern Bond at the time.
But it was a story that wasn't a movie or a book or anything else. It was a unique video game.
Yeah, that's what I particularly like about that. It's like the secret 20-second, or well, I don't know how many Bond movies there are now, but it's the secret however many there are plus one Bond movie.
Yeah.
Like Die Another Day, I think was like the 20th.
Well, they did this a few times.
That almost killed the fucking series, so they had to wait till Daniel Craig.
They did this a couple other times after this.
Wasn't Agent Under Fire also unique?
Agent Under Fire is unique, but it didn't have an actor.
Okay.
But Nightfire is unique and had likeness. The one after this, Everything or Nothing, was also had Pierce Brosnan in it, and it was.
Oh, I forgot about that one, and they even had an opening theme for that one.
Yeah, so this is a unique story as well, and Blood Money is a unique story too.
Yeah, that one I never touched.
Yeah. So you have a bunch of these that actually had top billing and voice acting and likeness rights that were their own unique stories, which is really neat.
Yeah.
And these are all really good. I don't think there's a bad one.
Even the multiplayer was pretty cool for a lot of these too.
Yeah,
and I don't remember which one, but one of them had like a sort of like hook shot grappling hook mechanic, which was pretty rad.
Yeah, I don't think there's a bad one after The World Is Not Enough. I mean, they really picked it up after Agent Under Fire, with Agent Under Fire, and then kept running with it. So, I definitely recommend these. Like, go back and play them, because these were definitely of the time, and they're really the only way you could play these. And then they do GoldenEye Rogue Agent, which people were kind of disappointed at the time because it just wasn't the GoldenEye that I'd hoped for.
Yeah, I don't know why the fuck they called it that other than to trick you. Like, it has nothing to do with the movie GoldenEye. It's that you literally have like a gold like eye, like your eye is gold colored and it does computer stuff. Like, all right, of all the things in the world you could have called it, you called it fucking GoldenEye.
Yeah, I don't get it. Yeah, it's crazy. I don't know why they did that, but yeah.
Unless it literally was to trick you.
Yeah, but it wasn't a bad game overall. It's just like.
No, the game looked all right. It's
yeah.
just it's not what literally anyone thought it would be, because why would you think anything other than the GoldenEye movie? It's called GoldenEye.
Yeah, exactly. I don't even think it's related to like the story of GoldenEye at all, right?
No, not even close.
Yeah.
Like, you're not Trevelyan. Like, you're some guy who's we had this in the comments last time. Like, you're fighting old Bond villains. So the game's obviously not canon because half these people are dead.
Yeah, exactly. I think Dr. No's in it, which is like literally the first villain who dies.
and you see Oddjob. I don't remember what happened in From Russia with Love. I think they did kill that guy. So but Oddjob he definitely died.
Well, speaking of, the game after that was From Russia with Love, which is a neat adaptation because, you wouldn't think to do an adaptation of
the second Bond movie ever
of an old game in the series, but yeah, they even have Sean Connery's likeness in this one, which is really a neat thing. They must have paid him a bunch of money for it, but you wouldn't think that they would do this because that's a pretty neat thing to do.
Yeah, that's not even one of the more like. When you picture Bond movies, this title comes to my head immediately. Like, it's not really one of those, even though it is a classic.
Well, this is really the movie that kind of launched the franchise. I mean, Dr. No was all right, but like this is this is the one that got people hooked.
Yes.
So I can see where this is coming from. Like, it's kind of like our previous discussions. This is really where the series is made. And I recommend people going back to this if you want to start watching the old ones. And it's a good one. I like it quite a bit. But yeah, I thought it was really neat that they brought this one back. And it's, of course, for GameCube, PS2, and Xbox, and PSP, oddly enough. But, why would you play the PSP version, honestly? But I think his voice is in this, too.
Wow.
Which is really cool. So yeah, really interesting. This was a really cool era for Bond games. It was probably one of the best. A lot of people don't think about it because it's of that era, and honestly, going back to some PS2 era stuff might be a little difficult these days. But I think a lot of the action games really hold up. A lot of the RPGs really hold up. But a lot of the really famous games from back then, a lot of the ones that have had staying power have been ported in ways, like Devil May Cry and things like that, and Metal Gear Solid 2 and all that stuff from back then. Deus Ex and all that stuff, all playable on modern machines. But then you have stuff like this that was left behind because it's licensed. You don't see it on modern platforms. And this is all of these are there's not a bad one in the bunch. So I definitely recommend going back to these because spy games are always pretty fun anyway. And at the same time, what were the movies that were going on? You had
Well, by this point, they were dead, because The World Is Not Enough was the last one until Daniel Craig showed up. No, that's not true. That's not true. There was Die Another Day. That was the last one that killed the series, the American-made Bond movie, and then we had to wait till Daniel Craig showed up.
Yeah, so Die Another Day, man, I saw that in the theater, and God, it's awful.
Yep. My name is Mr. Kill. Well, there's a name to die for. Good one.
That was the one with Halle Berry in it, right?
Yeah.
And the funny
and the guy who never sleeps, the villain doesn't sleep.
Yeah, like he had like diamonds in his face or something, right?
His henchman had diamonds in his face.
Yeah.
And the villain had a very extended fencing duel with Bond.
What I remember is like he survived
space laser and comical 60s Batman escaping a wave on the ocean.
Yeah, I was just gonna say the tsunami escape. Like you can't escape a tsunami. That is like that's why it's so bad.
Well, even forgetting that effect was not good.
Oh, it looks like garbage. It even looked like garbage at the time.
Yes. Yeah. The Ice Hotel was pretty kick-ass, though.
Yeah, but like the whole fight scene in there was very Batman and Robin-y. It's ridiculous and stupid.
This is what you get. This is what I said about like J.J. Abrams' Star Trek and Star Wars movies. This is what happens when you get a guy who's like, I like Bond. I know how Bond works. He has the catchphrases. I'll make a Bond movie, and this is what happens.
Yeah, exactly. And
I mean, like, not to say that all the British ones are good, because they're not, but like, if you put all the Bond movies in a lineup and said, find the American one, you won't take you very long.
It also has a very ham-fisted and very obvious almost like a hidden pilot in there to try to get a spin-off going with Halle Berry's character, and it obviously doesn't happen because this movie was
it definitely did, because she played a parody of a Bond girl in Austin Powers 3, which also was a bomb.
No, she didn't. That's Beyonce, dude. But anyway,
Foxy Cleopatra?
Yes, that's Beyonce.
No shit.
No, not Halle Berry.
I only did see the movie once in theaters, so...
Yeah. I mean, you can call me out on it if I'm wrong, but I do not think I'm wrong there, buddy.
Alright.
I'm Foxy Cleopatra. I'm a whole lot of woman.
Yeah, that's the one line I remember from that entire... Well, that's the one line of hers I remembered. I remember, like... I don't even know if I remember any of Austin Powers' lines in that movie.
Everybody always just quotes his dad because he has that one good line and that's it.
Oh yeah, okay, it's definitely Beyonce.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the intolerant of other people's cultures and the Dutch.
Yeah, I love that line. It's just so goofy.
That is a pretty clever line. I remember some visual gags, but like I don't know any lines from Austin Powers himself. Like from the Austin Powers movie.
Yeah, I mean, most of the visual gags are like, the same kind of stuff they did before, with him peeing as part of the fountain, like... Yeah,
well, that's the whole problem with, I mentioned this before, with both of the sequels. The second, like, the first sequel...
Yeah, they're eating their own ass.
Spy Shag Me is, like, it's pretty good, but, like, the problem with both of those movies is that they reference Austin Powers jokes rather than James Bond.
Yeah, I mean, the big problem with Goldmember was that it clearly had tons and tons of money thrown at it, like way more than even the first two combined, I think. And it had all kinds of cameos and stuff in it, but like it had a very weak parody basis.
I think we mentioned this before. Like the Goldmember guy is like Goldfinger, and he loves gold, and that's kind of it.
Yeah, he's barely a character.
Yeah, they don't really come back to like a Goldfinger plot.
Yeah, so Spy Who Shagged Me, the second one, had a budget of $33 million, and the first one had an even lower budget. of what, 16 million. So, and the budget of the third movie is like 63 million. So yeah,
Jesus.
So larger than both of the original movies combined. And it grossed a lot in the movie theater, but I guess like they critically it just didn't do well.
Yeah, it just failed on home video, I guess.
Yeah. Well, the first two films were like those films that almost everybody bought on DVD. Like almost everybody had a copy of the original.
Yeah, I had it on VHS.
Yeah. So like because DVD had been coming out around that time, but yeah. Getting back to Bond, Die Another Day was just a fucking embarrassment. I like I can't. There's one good thing I could say about it. You know what it is?
Ooh, the invisible car.
No. It's...
Oh wait. I forgot if this was The World Is Not Enough, or if it was Die Another Day. It might have been The World Is Not Enough. So if so, my fault. Which was the movie where Q had his like retirement party, which by coincidence was like the last movie he made before he died?
No. This is the Q in this one is John Cleese.
Oh, okay, I was way off.
He's still alive.
Yes.
The person who did the intro song was Madonna in this one, and the Die Another Day theme is actually really good. I actually really like the Die Another Day theme.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah, it's a really good version of it. So yeah,
I don't even remember it because I think I only saw the movie the one time.
Yeah. Her song is really good, the Die Another Day song. So I really enjoy that. But that's it. And then we have a big break, just kind of like we had in between Timothy Dalton and Pierce Brosnan. We didn't have Daniel Craig for 4 years. That's pretty big.
It was a while.
Yeah. So a pretty big.
But man, he came out swinging.
Yeah, and Casino Royale, unless you probably want to get in an argument with like people that are Sean Connery purists, it might be just the best movie in the entire series. It's so,
Goldfinger, GoldenEye, Casino Royale. Like, those movies kick ass.
Skyfall's really good too.
Skyfall is very good. I like Casino Royale a little bit more, but Skyfall is very, very good.
Yeah, it's kind of funny how it's like every other Craig movie is like fantastic.
Yeah, Quantum of Solace was not great.
Well, that happened during the writer's strike, and it shows.
Lots of jump cuts. The opening sequence of that movie.
It's very hard to discern the action in that movie. I don't know.
The opening sequence of that movie with the shaky cam, like,
it's awful.
A lot of people get bothered by shaky cam with like the motion sickness. That doesn't it annoys me, but it doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
The opening sequence with the shaky cam with Quantum of Solace is, I think, the first and only time I have ever had to look away from the screen because of like the risk of motion sickness. Like, it was bad.
I just hated it because I couldn't see what the fuck was going on in that movie.
Well, that's another problem. Yeah. Shaky cam sucks, but like that is the only time I think I have ever been like, oof, I gotta look away from the screen.
I mean, sometimes it's okay, like when it's applicable, like when it's a handy cam movie, like Cloverfield or something.
If it's incidentally shaky, yeah. but I mean like. The scene is action-packed, so let's make it shaky to really show you those hits, but you're literally not showing them. Like, I can't see what the fuck is going on.
In The Bourne Identity, it works. It does not work in this movie.
I haven't seen The Bourne Identity, so
none
I'll
of
have to
them.
Go back to that, I guess.
You've avoided the Bourne Identity series entirely?
I've seen clips.
They're really good, especially, like, as they move on, they get even better.
I read the books.
Really? And you still haven't watched them?
Yeah.
The third Bourne Identity is fan-fucking-tastic, and so is the fourth one's really good too. But the third one has like one of the best hand-to-hand fight scenes I've ever seen. It's so good. Yeah, I definitely recommend it. There's also a spin-off movie too with Jeremy Renner, but I actually never saw that one. I only saw the Matt Damon.
The Jeremy Renner from Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters?
No, I mean the Jeremy Renner from the iPod. The iPhone app.
I don't even know what that is.
Oh, he had like some kind of weird like iPhone app that was like promoting him. Like,
I do remember the self-promotion thing where it was
weird,
about him specifically. That was weird. I didn't know it was an iPhone app.
Yeah, some kind of weirdness, and then I think he's just kind of a jerk in real life. So anyway,
the Jeremy Renner from that 5 seconds in the first Thor movie. Where he's like considering shooting an arrow, but then he doesn't, and you don't even realize he's like a named character at the time.
Not only that, but he's going to be like a major character in the franchise.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, I think we should probably move on pretty soon.
Yes.
We went over a lot of the video games. We haven't gotten to the Craig era, of course. And we barely breached the Craig era in the movies here. But we'll probably just have one last episode to kind of like wrap everything up. So we should move on to fan stuff.
Oh, of course. We have comments from 2 people. In fact, 2 comments each from 2 people.
Oh, wonderful.
Schoolfilmer says, maybe I should get back to The Binding of Isaac someday. Also, it seems I have messed up something. I was a bit too fast in starting a session of Borderlands. It thought I was at Tartarus Station in playthrough 2, which I hadn't even started, and where I went in the second playthrough, it thought I was at that point in playthrough 1, and vice versa. It also caused the start game menu to drop frames whenever I chose that character, weird. So knowing that it would cause trouble later, I regrettably deleted that character and started again. Or is it supposed to be like that? I tried going back to playthrough 1 after starting the second one properly, and it placed me to where I was in number 2. Maybe I'm just a bundle of nerves whenever anything out of the ordinary happens.
Weird. I can tell you this, that like the Borderlands sequels are aged a lot better than the first game. I only ever really played through the first game, but like 2 and 3 have much better graphics and a lot better stability and a lot of other better things about them. So I definitely recommend 2 at least.
And then the other comments. The only James Bond games I've played are GoldenEye Rogue Agent on PS2, with a copy of that borrowed from one of his friends, and on the DS, funnily enough, and GoldenEye 007 on the Wii. I did try GoldenEye on the N64 a bit, though, and like with the first attempt at getting Yooka-Laylee, my first attempt at getting Streets of Rogue went south somehow. Now I gotta wait for another half-off sale or whatever. Or I could spring for Wargroove later and archive more games for space. And then Baka-sensei has 2 posts as well. Hope you all had a great start of the year with family and friends, keeping it safe, of course. I missed the chance of having the last and first question of the year. I thought I sent it, but oh well, maybe this year's the year. About the movies of Bond, I wanted to add that Moonraker to me was a movie that changed the to cash in on the space trend, Star Wars, Star Trek, etc. And if it wasn't for that, maybe we could have had a different story.
2001: Space Odyssey as well.
Yeah. Also, I guess this must be normal, but every movie it felt that mimics the era or trend. For example, the Daniel Craig is more like Mission Impossible, the Bourne Saga, even Taken. On the games, I hated N64 GoldenEye. The reason? The weapon proximity mine. My cousin used it to show up. I still don't know where he got that map of the respawn points. And yes, the Wii remake GoldenEye 007 was a Call of Duty skinned GoldenEye, recovering health while crouching. Ugh. And Daniel Craig replaces Pierce Brosnan. Wow. Yeah, that I knew. I knew about the Daniel Craig. I didn't know about recovering health, though.
Weird.
And then, other post. I watched the James Bond Jr. and had the misconception that Jr. was part of his name. Yeah, like, hello, Mr. Jr. And not an adjective. My cousin's name is Junior.
Oh, okay.
My uncle said it was the translation of Juan to English. Also, thanks for all the info on Jew celebrations, and it's a great thing to celebrate the feeling of perseverance and hope if it makes you feel better. Cinco de Mayo is a celebration on a winning battle in Puebla against the French army. Yeah. However, we lost the war on the rule over Mexico for 3 years. And lastly, Vice, my last question also made you deviate from the subject, like your question on the last podcast.
It's fine.
Fair enough. So, our question this time around here is from School Filmer. Have there ever been any game-breaking glitches that caused you to stop playing the game or at least put it down till later? Can you think of any? Because I have one.
Not a game-breaking glitch. When I'm thinking about this, when it first comes to mind, I think of an unwinnable condition that really soured me on something.
King's Quest. Those games will fuck you.
I played through the PlayStation 1 remake of Final Fantasy 1 because I had it in me that I wanted to play through all of the available Final Fantasy games in a row at the time. And I got myself into a situation where I wasn't high enough level to beat the bad guy, and I had saved using a cabin, like right there, and there was no way to grind and get ahead. So I had completely ruined my playthrough.
I actually have a similar thing as well as a glitch, both of which I think I might have talked about on this podcast before. So the similar thing is Baten Kaitos on the GameCube.
Yeah.
So there are two kinds of save points in that game, red flowers and blue flowers. If you use a blue flower, you have the option to transport you to the area where you level up, because you can gain so much experience. You can gain experience like it's going out of style, but you won't level up. You have to go to this place and talk to like this church and talk to the priest, and then your level ups happen. It's kind of like Drakengard, like you don't actually level up until you beat the level, so grinding won't help you beat the level faster, you have to finish it first. So you have to go to the save point through the blue flower, go to the church, and then level up there with the experience you've accumulated from killing enemies. However, there's one dungeon where the game does warn you, like, you better be ready before entering here. But there's a save point inside the dungeon, which is a red flower, and it's the only save point in the dungeon, and you can't leave the dungeon the way you came. Like, the only way out is through. So you have to beat the boss there. And that boss is kind of notoriously difficult. Like, it's quite hard. So if you save there, you cannot possibly grind. You can maybe get some item drops, but you cannot level up no matter how many enemies you kill. So that happened to me once. That fucking sucked. The other thing is an actual glitch. Zombie U, except it's just called Zombie on systems other than the Wii U. But the PS4 version in particular has a glitch. I don't think the other versions have it. Where there's one particular area where you need to go find, I think it's like a gas can to go back to your hub and power up some machine or whatever. But for some reason, you're able to clear the area of enemies and then go to the next story point. It just lets you do that, even without the gas can, even though you're supposed to bring the gas can back first. So I missed the gas can, and I went to the next area, and the game then thought that I was in that area. So, like, but they still wanted me to bring back the gas can. But the gas can despawned because I'm supposed to have already used it to enter that area. So I'm in the area, so the game thinks there's no more need for a gas can, but I haven't checked off the plot point that says that I got it. So advancing the game was impossible.
Wow.
So I did actually go back and do a new file and catch myself up to that point. Same with Baten Kaitos. I beat both games, but that sucked. What's annoying is I was looking, like, you know how in some games, like you know how in the Arkham Knight games, like Arkham Asylum, Arkham City, Arkham Knight, you know how, like, you might as well play the entire game with detective vision on?
Sure.
That's basically what I was doing in this game, except that the gas can didn't show up as a big, glowy, important item. It would have been more obvious if I'd had my computer vision off. Very annoying. Because I was Googling my problem, like, what do I do? And someone mentioned there's this game-breaking, unwinnable state glitch. That fucking sucks. I don't know if it's a glitch or a bug, whatever appropriate term is, but that was unpleasant.
So, one of the games that I remember from back in the day that had some trouble with was a game called One for the PS2. Have you ever heard of that One?
I don't think so.
So it was a pretty cool, bombastic action game. It was like a kind of like a 3D run and gun game, but it like for the time it worked. I'm sure it's probably aged pretty poorly since it's a PS1 game, but it was made by the company Visual Concepts, the company that made like the Clay Fighter games and Claymates and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, One was an interesting game. It just was really pretty fun to mess around with, and eventually I got towards the end of the game, and there's this part where you're hopping through this tunnel with like with platforms on the side of it, and then you run through, and I ran through this loop, and it just looped and looped and looped and looped, and never I could never break the chain of it. And I never went back and tried to play it ever again. And I don't know whether that was a function of maybe the disc that I was playing had a problem with it, or if the game itself had a glitch, or maybe my save was corrupted, or whatever. But whenever I would get to that point in the game, I would just loop over and over and over again.
Yeah, maybe you would have scratched disc or something.
What was that?
Maybe you would have scratched disc or something.
Yeah, it was really crazy, and I believe it, but it just really soured me on ever playing the game ever again.
We get no kidding. Yeah. Do we want to go out and pay full price for another copy of the game? Like, I mean, now it wouldn't be as bad. You could get it cleaned or whatever, or the game wouldn't be so expensive now. But it sucks.
I bought the game when I was a kid, so like I was like what 13 or 14 at the time when I bought it, and this would have been in 97 or 98. So yeah, that sounds right. And also, it just wasn't a game that anybody ever remembered. It was kind of like fondly thought of at the time, but nowadays nobody ever mentions it. Even on retrospectives and things like that. And it was a pretty decent game. I of course need to go back on it. I'm thinking about it with nostalgic eyes. But yeah, it was pretty fun. And I just said fuck off with that game. Once I got to that point where I had just gotten so burned with it.
I think I have one. This does not count as a glitch or anything. This is 100% my fault. But I was playing Final Fantasy IV, known on the Super Nintendo as Final Fantasy II, on an emulator because I didn't have an SNES back in the day. And I'm a save state fiend. And I save stated in a fight with a crushing wall where the wall doesn't attack you, as far as I remember. But if it hits you, then the party dies. Like, it's basically a timed fight. And I saved at some point where I couldn't recover. So, like, that just fucked my file up. And
that'll do it.
I think that was near the end of the game, too. So I was like, oh, god damn it. So I never went back.
Yeah, some sort of unwinnable state is never...
that's 100% my fault, though. That's not the fault of the game, but it still pissed me off.
Yeah. Well, I think we answered that pretty well, and I really want to thank you for dropping a question on us, because we didn't have one last week. Do we have any in reserve, Lotus?
As a matter of fact, we do. School Filmer has one more, and Baka-sensei has one.
Oh, very nice. Thank you both, because we desperately needed them, and we still desperately need them, because we only have two in the pot.
Actually, no, now that I mention it.
Yep.
School Filmer has one more, and Baka-sensei has two, so they each submitted two.
Well, you are undermining my my attempts at getting more questions.
Oh, actually, 16 more people each submitted one.
Oh, you son of a...
Yeah.
Why, you little... But
yeah.
No, but seriously, thank you so much for contributing those. That's really, really awesome. And but still, if you come up with any off the top of your head, you're doing something, you think of a question, or you think of something as you're listening to the podcast, please drop it down, on the YouTube page or the SoundCloud. We would love to do it. That is the show for this week. We want to thank all of our fans who contributed questions and comments. Please keep us supplied with awesome topics by submitting questions of your own via the YouTube and SoundCloud pages. While there, please give us thumbs ups, likes, and 5-star ratings on iTunes. Helps promote and spread awareness of the show, and any bit of encouragement helps keep the show going. I also will continue to say the year correctly. Thank you, and you will also catch us on Tuesdays for our sister podcast, Corrective Consciousness, the in-depth look at this week in our lives.
And you can follow me in my YouTube channel, Lotus Prince. You can hit me up on Twitter at Lotus Prince. And finally, if you are interested in seeing my videos early, getting in on exclusive live streams, selecting upcoming games for me to Let's Play, or getting involved in conversations with me and other patrons on Discord, then perhaps consider swinging by my Patreon account, which can be found at patreon.com/LotusPrince.
And worth every penny every month. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, we'll catch everybody on Tuesday then.
Until next time, everyone.
Bye-bye.